Jesus didn't explain his teachings so people would understand them. He explained them so only the right people would. That sounds strange, until you realize Jesus said this himself. When his disciples asked why he spoke in riddles, metaphors, and strange stories, he didn't say it was to help the masses. He said, "To you, it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but to others, I speak in parables." Matthew 13:11. Not everyone was meant to hear this message, not because they were sinners, but because they were asleep. And that single fact exposes why religion still struggles with Jesus' teachings today. Because parables weren't lessons, they were filters. And once you understand what they were filtering for, you'll realize Jesus was never building a religion. He was triggering awakening. Why parables were dangerous religion teaches that Jesus spoke in parables to make truth simple. That's comforting and completely false. Jesus says something far more unsettling just a few verses later. "This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand." Matthew 13:13. Read that carefully. Jesus is not trying to make truth accessible. He's exposing the condition. People are looking, but not seeing, listening, but not hearing. That's not ignorance. That's unconsciousness. And unconscious people are the easiest to control. Here's where religion quietly panics. Because if Jesus' message requires perception, not belief, then repeating doctrine does nothing. If truth requires inner readiness, then authority loses relevance. That's why Jesus never says, "Obey the institution." Instead, he says, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Mark 4:9. That's not an invitation. It's a warning. Some people will hear the words and still miss the meaning. And religion depends on people never realizing that. Parables as psychological triggers. Parables weren't stories. They were mirrors. They bypassed the logical mind and struck something deeper. Jesus even explains this privately. "The secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside, everything comes in parables." Mark 4:11. Inside, outside, not moral categories, states of awareness. This is exactly what the Gospel of Thomas reinforces when Jesus says, "The kingdom is not something you wait for. It is spread upon the earth, and people do not see it." Same message, different audience. If this is already unsettling what you were taught, good. That tension means the filter is working. If you want content that questions authority instead of protecting it, like this video and subscribe now. This channel isn't here to comfort belief. It's here to expose what belief replaced. Why religion had to neutralize parables. Because parables do something institutions can't control. They activate self-recognition. Jesus compares truth to a seed. When anyone hears the message of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown. Matthew 13:19. Notice what removes the seed. Not sin, not immorality, lack of understanding, ignorance, not guilt, is the enemy. And once people realize that, fear-based salvation collapses. Jesus saves his harshest words not for sinners, but scholars. He says, "You have taken away the key of knowledge. You yourselves did not enter, and you hindered those who were entering." Luke 11:52. That is devastating. The problem wasn't disbelief, it was blocked access. Religion didn't reject Jesus because he was immoral. They rejected him because he bypassed them. Parables cannot be weaponized. You can't turn them into law. You can't enforce them. You can't institutionalize awakening. That's why Jesus says, "My kingdom is not of this world." John 18:36. Not a future heaven, not a political structure, a different mode of seeing. That's what religion had to bury. Why this still matters? Because a person who awakens doesn't fear hell, doesn't outsource authority, doesn't confuse belief with truth, and that person is impossible to manage. So the parables were softened, explained away, turned into moral lessons, not because they were unclear, but because they were too clear. If this video shifted how you see Jesus, don't stop here. Like, subscribe, and go to the next video, because there we expose what Jesus meant by having ears to hear, how perception itself was the initiation, and why this teaching terrified religious power structures. Once you understand that, you'll realize Jesus didn't hide the truth. He hid it in plain sight and trusted awakening to do the rest.